welcome to the Career Development Series. I am Lee Nyes from Lee Nyes Coaching, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. If you haven't already checked out my website, it is leenyes.com. Head over there, sign up for my free career search guide, and subscribe to get all the latest updates and information on building your dream career. Now, in my last session, I talked a little bit about if you should go back to graduate school, some of the considerations, and 4 important questions for you to consider before making that decision. And I heard from a lot of you and appreciate your feedback and comments that it really helped you think through the process, if it's something that you should do, or if there's another way for you to get the skills and experience you need to get that dream career. So in today's installment, I'm going to be talking to those of you who have said, yes, I do. I want to go back to school. I want to get that graduate degree. The profession I want to get into requires it, and I am ready to go. Well, I have 3 important considerations for you today to think about before you start applying to that school. Now, I'm sure you've spent a considerable amount of time looking at options for different programs, wherever you may be, and you've maybe narrowed down a list to 3 to 5 different programs, and now you're just about ready to start that application process. Now, I have been through this. I have a master's and I have a doctorate degree, and each time I applied to a couple of different schools, and it was a very intensive process, and I don't want you to underestimate the time that you should invest into your application process, because it may make the difference between you getting into the program you want and maybe some of your B or C choices. So the first thing you should know is that an application process for a graduate program takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So you should start planning at least a year, maybe even a year and a half before you're going to start applying for grad schools. Unfortunately, I see people who decide really late in the process that want to get into a program and find out that it's too late. The deadline's passed. They have so many applicants that they just can't possibly accept another person. So make sure you're looking ahead. Think ahead, plan at least a year. The first part of the application process to think about is the application fee. Every program will likely have a fee. Sometimes there's different fee waivers based on different factors, but for the most part, you'll be paying anywhere from $50 to up to $200 simply to apply. And these are always non-refundable application fees. So whether you get accepted into the program or not, it helps cover the staff that invests in processing the application, and other elements to support the office that is looking at your application. So budget for that application fee. Typically, you can pay it with a check or a credit card, but just have that in your mind in advance. Second part of an application is an essay. Universities want to see your motivation for getting into the program. They might also ask you about what you have achieved and what you can bring to their program as well. So it's very similar to a personal essay. Talk a little bit about yourself, but really focus on your motivation. Really tie what you're going to learn in the program to what you hope to do during and after the program has finished as well. And then focus on some of the unique attributes that you bring as well. Maybe you have certain skills or experience that really tie into what you're learning in the program and how you can contribute in the class, and maybe help some of your classmates as well better understand that material because of your unique experiences. So I have looked at applications for a variety of different hiring positions that I'm hiring for, and also helped others with their application essays. And the one thing I just caution you against is the very standard, I'm very passionate about this subject and I want to be in this program because it's my passion. That we see that terminology is used, it's overused, and it's very consistent across applications. So try to set yourself apart. Find something unique. Find something about the program, the professors in the program that really speaks to you, and then articulate in that essay how you would be just an incredible value to that program. Another thing you might have to include in your applications are letters of recommendations, typically from 2 to 5 recommendations from employers, from former professors, from perhaps coworkers that you have. And what these recommendations are really looking for is to have someone speak to your skills and abilities and really understand if you would be a successful candidate for their program. They want to see that you have perseverance, that you are intelligent, that you have critical thinking skills. So make sure you choose your letter of recommendation people very carefully. Start thinking about who might be able to speak really well to some of my best skills and abilities, who knows some unique characteristics about me. And another thing that I find helpful with letter of recommendation is, in addition to providing the basic instructions for the letter of recommendation, provide information about the program and also provide information about yourself that the recommender may not already know. And perhaps it's even helpful to draft a very standard letter of recommendation that they could use to edit, kind of a fill in the blanks. I see this in academia. I get asked for letters of recommendations, and it's a lot of work for the person who's doing the recommending. And it typically happens at the same time every year because of that application cycle. So you're going to want to give your recommenders enough time and enough information that they can really write a good letter for you. And also make sure you give them enough time to turn around the letter. 2 weeks is pretty standard. Anything less than that, you might be pushing it given all of the other time commitments that these people have. So give your recommenders time. The next piece, and this is a piece that's really shifting in academia for sure, and that is standardized test scores. So depending on what program you're going into, you may need to write a GMAT for business school, an LSAT for law school, a GRE, an MCAT. So there's lots of different standardized tests that may be requirements for your program. Now, I have seen in the past year a lot of different schools moving away from standardized tests, especially at the undergraduate level. Now, I haven't seen as much change at the graduate level, so you should still study those requirements carefully. And again, that's why this advanced planning is very important, because depending on where you live, these tests may not be offered fairly regularly. And you're going to have to schedule a time in the future to take the test and submit that result to the school before they can make their admissions decision. You may also want to study. So when I applied to my doctorate program, I had to take the GRE. Now, I did not need to take the GRE for my master's, so I couldn't use that score. And also, some scores expire. So be aware of how long ago you took a certain test and how long that score is valid for. So in my case, I had to really study up, particularly to dust off my math skills that I hadn't used in a while, so that I was ready and prepared to take that test. So I did study, bought a guidebook online, went through some practice tests so I knew what to prepare for, and then scheduled my test and went ahead and took my test. There's also going to be costs, and sometimes significant costs with taking these tests. So that's another expense that you can plan for in addition to the application fee. Give yourself time, study time, and also scheduling time as well for that test. The next part I want to talk about is the cost. Graduate school is not cheap. Now, there are ways that you can reduce the cost of that graduate school, but do be prepared in advance that graduate school can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 per year. It is a big investment in the pocketbook for sure. So here's some of the ways that you can reduce or help pay for that graduate school. First, federal financial aid is typically available to almost anyone. You would have to go through the FAFSA process, but you have individuals who work in the financial aid office at those universities that can help guide you through that process if you haven't done it before. It's a fairly straightforward application based on your tax returns, and you fill out that information. It goes to your school, it's processed, and they decide how much money you can afford to have. Now, depending on what aid you get, you may have grants and you may have loans. And so this financial aid is something that you're going to have to pay back over time after your program ends. So just be prepared and aware of that as well. There may be scholarships. Your university will likely have scholarships. The program itself may have scholarships. And then there are also national, regional, state type scholarships that you would qualify for as well. So again, give yourself some time, look at the different scholarships. You won't know if you don't try. Now, I used to work in higher ed and in international education and had a lot of students who were looking for assistance, excuse me, to pay for their study abroad. And I was amazed at how many scholarships were available to students, and also how successful they were in getting these awards. Sometimes it simply just took an essay that they wrote to put together. So start thinking about a compelling reason and justification for you to receive a scholarship or a financial award, and start putting that letter together. Then you can customize that letter based on any scholarship that might become available to you. If you start it with a template, it's very easy to modify and upload when you are ready to submit it. The next piece to think about for graduate school are graduate assistantships and teaching assistantships. So they're a little different. A graduate assistantship typically means you are working for the university in a certain capacity, and you would receive a tuition waiver and potentially a stipend to help with living expenses. And so you exchange working for that tuition waiver and that stipend. It's a great way if you're in a program to get practical experience at a university in a specific area, and also help subsidize your education. A teaching assistantship is also very similar, but instead of working in an office, let's say an administrative function, you are actually in a teaching role. You may be teaching a class. I know at major universities, it's very common that you will have someone who's a teaching assistant actually teach the course, or you may be teaching in conjunction with a professor. Your role may be grading, it may be doing supplemental instruction. There's a variety of different things that you can do as a teaching assistant. Now, if you want to get a teaching job after your graduate degree, I highly recommend going the teaching assistant route, because it will really give you a taste of what it's like to be in the classroom before you actually get your job. And it helps you when you're applying to other positions to show that you already have some teaching experience. Now, another option, and this is where my story comes in. I knew that I wanted to get my doctorate degree. I was working in higher ed, and it was very important to me that I had that highest credential in my field. And so I purposefully applied and applied for a job at a university where I knew that I could get my doctorate degree. And the reason I did that is because these universities provided tuition scholarships for their employees. And the University of Minnesota, where I worked, was very generous. And so I had a very highly subsidized doctoral program, because I was very intentional about getting that degree and also working at a premier university as well. If you work in the private world, you may work with a corporation or an organization that provides tuition reimbursement. So that might be something for you to consider now or to plan for in advance. Now, I waited until I obtained a position at a university where I could then pursue my doctorate take a look at where you're at now or plan ahead to make that change so that you can ultimately pursue that degree and get that tuition support. The last thing to think about is what type of program do you want to be in? And what I mean by that is, do you want to be in a full face-to-face type format? So this is a residency-based program. You're there just like every other undergraduate student all year round. You're in face-to-face classes. It requires a significant commitment because you probably won't be able to work a full-time job in addition to going to school full-time. Maybe if your program is designed that way, it can work, but that is one consideration. The second might be a fully online program. So that's a program where you may never step foot on campus, and there's a lot of universities that are providing these options now today, especially for the working professional, someone who wants to maintain their career, continue working in their day job, and then also in the evening they're doing their schooling. The third option, and this is the option that I chose, was a hybrid program. So this is where you may be doing a combination of online and in-person courses. So the University of Minnesota program I was in, I took courses throughout the year online. So I worked during the day, came home, did classwork at night every semester. And then in the summer, we had a residency component. So I think it was 4 to 6 weeks in length. And at that time, I used my vacation, I used leave without pay. I mean, there's a variety of different ways to do it, but what I liked about that model is that I was able to get to know the other people who are in my cohort. We formed really strong bonds. We still get together today, and it was a great model and something I look forward to every year because I really did like that campus experience. And so if it was fully online, I probably wouldn't have got that experience. This allowed me to spend the 4 to 6 weeks, put on my backpack every day, walk around campus and be in class with the professors and my advisors. And it was a great aspect for me. Now, that being said, there was a cost involved there because I did have to cover all of my living expenses while I was on campus. But they made very reasonable accommodations for everybody. So think about what might work for you in your certain circumstances and situations, and then try to identify programs. And I would say that more and more we're seeing an explosion of online opportunities for students, and even that hybrid cohort model is really gaining traction. So that's all I have for you today. Good luck in your journey to graduate school. My experience was fantastic. I highly recommended it, but that's because I was very motivated and I knew why it was I was going to school and what I wanted to get out of it. So if that is you, take those tips under consideration. Good luck with your application. And again, please visit my website, leenies.com, sign up, get your career search success guide, and stay informed about all the latest and greatest career developments. Thank you and have a great day.